Right, then, I think we're ready to rock and roll. Good afternoon, everyone. I hope you're all keeping safe and well during these troubled times. And I'd like to welcome you all to what hopes to be the first in a series of webinars where we explore the digital workplace. My name is Chris O'Leary. I'm one of the account directors here with Qualcomm. And joining me is Stuart Pass, our CTO, who will be providing some valuable insight into three key areas of the digital workplace. This webinar will be recorded.
Chris.
Oh, sorry, Stuart.
Sorry, just saying hi to everyone.
This webinar will be recorded for those unable to attend, or if you want to share with your colleagues afterwards. And if you have any questions, please feel free to use the chat facility, and we'll address them at the end. If there's any problems with audio, and again with the screens, or the visuals, please again use the chat facility, and we'll aim to address them quickly. So to run through the format, I will give you a sort of high-level overview of Qualcomm, so you know who we are and what we do, and then I'll pass across to Stu to discuss the digital workplace. Sound good, Stu?
That sounds good.
Fantastic. Okay, so for those of you that don't know us, we, Qualcomm, are a specialist systems integrator who provide end-to-end solutions around the digital workplace, intelligent network infrastructure, and cyber security. Now, our aim is to deliver business transformation through digital innovation in order to help our customers improve their user, business, and operational experiences, all while addressing their concerns around risk, governance, and compliance. Now, Stu will come on to discuss how we do that in a moment. Qualcomm is also the exclusive UK member of the Gartner-recognised Global Enterprise Mobility Alliance. Now, this is a global alliance of like-minded organisations made up of around 16 partners all around the world that have come together to support our global enterprises with fully scalable managed mobility solutions. So we consult, procure, deploy, assist, manage, and secure each aspect of your mobility project. You can actually find Gemma in Gartner's Magic Quadrant for managed mobility services if you're so interested. I think we're in the visionary section of that. So we are a UK-based operation with offices both in the north and south, and our Gemma affiliation means that we can provide our services globally through our local Gemma partners. And it also allows us to provide 24/7 support and managed services for many of these global customers as well. Finally, all of our consultants and engineers that we have in-house are qualified to the highest level in each of their particular disciplines, and this in turn qualifies us for the highest partner accreditations with a number of our key vendors. So we are, as several of our vendors state, a safe pair of hands to deal with. Now, historically, for those that know us best, we'll remember that Qualcomm originally focused only in two key areas. There was networking and mobility. 15 years ago, we focused purely on the wireless networking solution side of things, much long before it became the utility it is today. 10 years ago, we were actually the second company in Europe to partner with a leading MDM vendor in order to secure and manage the Android and iPhone explosion that we saw in the workplace. And today, we continue that evolution and as such have developed three key divisions. There's the digital workplace and smart campus division. Now, this includes our mobility solutions, our location-aware services, and user experience apps. There's our intelligent network infrastructure division, which includes our secure wired and wireless networking, analytics, service assurance and management, and finally our security division. And this includes things like mobile threat defense, access control, content firewall, and secure app solutions. And to complement all of these solutions within these divisions, we've actually redeveloped our service offerings as well. So expanding on the engineering professional services to now include a number of as-a-service models, which are allowing our customers to essentially consolidate hardware, software, and support into a single monthly subscription. This, of course, reduces the burden on IT by freeing up staff to do more business-critical work, and it simplifies the burden on procurement through the consolidation. Now, our portfolio of solutions and services will continue to grow based upon market trends and our customers' needs, which I guess is, or rather was, all about experience. Now, we can spend a lot more time discussing our solutions and services, but that's not why you're here today. So for now, I'd like to pass you across to our CTO and digital workplace guru, Stuart Pass.
Thank you, Chris, and good afternoon, everyone. As Chris has said, I hope you're all well in these slightly uncertain times. But it's good to be talking to you this afternoon. Thanks for taking some time out of your diary to attend this webinar. As Chris said, we are focused these days on providing providing an experience. Effectively, we see that now as a very key measure to the success of the adoption of technology and services. The experience that you can deliver, whether that be for the user, for that sort of real sort of frontline user or member of staff, all the way through to the experience you might get within operations, and the eventual experience that gives the business, whether that's improved productivity, increased customer satisfaction, staff retention. They are all obviously measures by which a business is going to measure their success. So new digital technologies in the consumer economy have driven new employee operational and user expectations. Employees expect to be able to move around and work anywhere, on-site or off-site, move from device to device, and receive the same high quality access to a consistent set of resources. And increasingly, they expect smart spaces to adjust to them too. Operations need to be efficient and connected, and the network should enhance productivity, simplify management, reduce manual labour, not only for stakeholders of the company, but for IT too. And users expect their apps, their tools, and their experiences to be personalised for them or the space that they're working in. So in short, I guess the customer focus has shifted to providing stakeholders these improved experiences that is a key expectation of today's working world. So the digital workplace, what is it? What does it mean, and sort of where does it fit in? So why a digital workplace? We see digital workplace as very much part of any organization's digital transformation program, and every organization obviously is going through those programs at various different speeds, and obviously are different at different points along the road, if you like, for digital transformation. But with digital workplace being part of the digital transformation program, in essence, it's about working smarter by appropriately applying a digital solution, technology, if you like, often in combination with a streamlined process in order to achieve a better and quicker result with less effort. So how does that relate to the digital workplace? The digital workplace is the application of technology to streamline the way in which people work, whether that be within a physical space or interacting with that environment, or by working more efficiently as part of a virtual working environment. And that's certainly something we've all had to come to terms with over the last few weeks. And who does this affect? Sorry, I'll skip forward there. Oh, get the right slide now. And who does this affect? The correct application of digital workplace technologies ultimately deliver better experiences for users, staff and visitors, but should also streamline processes to improve operations and deliver real business benefits. The circle on the right, if we work from the outside of that circle, that shows some of those business benefits in the green circle around the outside. So we're seeing there the improved productivity, the reduced operating costs, and improved customer experience. But if we sort of work through the grey layer, yes, where we all have to adhere to governance and compliance and assess the risk of deploying these technologies, we get to the layer where we actually get to look at the technology that is being deployed to deliver these outcomes. And the technology elements that Qualcomm focuses on to deliver these improved experiences are mobility, location-aware services, and the deployment of user experience applications. And they are the three areas that we are going to look a little bit into now and explore in a little bit more detail. So with mobility, the mobility element of our digital workplace strategy is to develop and to deliver choice and a seamless onboarding and connectivity experience to the workforce. The users are not expected to have to make decisions about the most secure way to connect or transfer data. This should be inherent within the solution and should ensure that the company and personal data is protected. Staff should have the flexibility to work from anywhere, hence improving productivity for the organisation as a whole. And ultimately, delivering improved productivity as a result of streamlined services, less overheads, and a more productive workforce. So here we can see, delivering an upfront user experience by offering varied device choice and seamless onboarding to apps and services. The operational benefit is obviously that the operations team can rely that these are secure connections, that the data is protected, and they're offering ubiquitous access to all parties from any location, any device, any environment. And as I say, the business experience is improved productivity, increased revenue, and that's really the way we look at these services now. Is what are they delivering in terms of experiences to those three areas? So here's a sort of a view of some of the ways in which we do that. So we can offer the choice of device to the user on the left-hand side, and deploy certain elements to their devices, or by providing the right types of gateways into our services, into our environments, so that the choice, the user makes the choice on the device and where they work from. The choice on the secure connectivity is made by the organization, and by the way the solution is set up. So working from top to bottom, detection and remediation of threats is a key feature of any mobility solution. Most organizations have a strategy for laptops, but obviously, as Chris mentioned, sort of 10 years ago, we were all faced with the responsibility of having a security strategy for mobile devices as well, and that's been a slightly more difficult thing to implement from those initial days of the iPad and the iPhone, to today, where it's an easier thing to achieve. But mobile threat defense is a key defense against attack for any organization these days, and so that's deployed across the whole of the mobile workforce, no matter what type of device they're using. And this is seamless to the user, with threats detected and flagged to operations and potential threats removed in some cases without the user even being aware. Now, with more services moving to the cloud, this is the second box down, the blue one, the ability for users to sort of download thousands of apps and tools to their mobile devices. Organizations need a way to control this. Firstly, we can control access to corporate cloud services, again, in as seamless a way as possible. So no more entering of multiple passwords for each service. They need to use integrated single sign-on, and in some cases even a zero password solution exists to improve the user experience, by effectively giving using the device as the security token, if you like, and using a fingerprint recognition or an iris scan to gain access to the network. Secondly, in the cloud, the ability for operations to control which cloud applications are downloaded onto managed devices. This ensures that data is not leaked via unregistered applications or compromised in any way, and that can all be controlled. Thirdly, on here, remote access gateways. So many solutions for this, many different options. We can build direct VPNs from within applications on devices, all the way through the network to where they need to terminate, or we can VPN all of the traffic from a device into more, a standard VPN concentrator, if you like. There are various options available for organizations these days to secure that traffic, and some are more appropriate to others depending on your deployment model. And all of this is achieved, of course, through the deployment of unified and endpoint management solutions, for complete visibility of the managed workforce, or simply providing maybe application containers that can be used on BYOD devices by staff on their own devices if they choose to use them. So this is how we've approached mobility, and I don't think any of this is, but this is probably the most mature part of digital workplace. I think we've all grown up working in flexible environments, being able to work from home, various different methods. We all remember the days of using secondary authentication devices like tokens, RSA tokens and codes, etc., to get into networks. And obviously this stuff is maturing all the time with the growth of mobile handheld devices. Chris has already mentioned, if you have any questions as we're going along, pop them in the chat box or raise your hand, and Chris will interject at the suitable point with any questions you might raise for us on these sections.
So we have had one question come through about not being able to hear you, unfortunately.
Okay.
I've sent out the phone number and the access code to dial in. So if your computer audio isn't playing ball, there is a phone number and a login code to use as well. So my apologies. We've tested many things regarding this webinar, but the audio is often hit and miss with these types of webinars. So please dial in if you can. And always actually saying the number is busy, and we can't actually. We've got another delegate saying they can hear us, but one saying that they can't.
Okay.
That is odd. Right, you carry on. I'll see if I can figure this out, and I'll send some private messages directly to the delegate.
Luckily, this session is being recorded, so hopefully we can push that forward to them after and they can hear what's been saying, as well as look at all the pretty pictures on the screen. Okay. So we move on to location. I wish I could get rid of these questions now on the screen. Okay, put them up there. Move on to the second part of what we're looking at today, and that's location. When we say location or location services, we're predominantly talking about enabling a physical site with location awareness, if you like. You know, and this can be, again, here on the screen now, we're sort of showing a little bit of a story of the experiences that can be gained from this, and then we'll look a little bit deeper into what that looks like within a building environment. But user and visitor experiences of a workplace environment can be greatly enhanced by the introduction of location-aware services. A digital concierge that can sign in a guest or a user, inform their host of their arrival and reception they are waiting, and potentially give directions to that visitor or guest to where key facilities are, including the meeting space itself. All of this can greatly streamline the process of checking visitors in, checking guests in, checking new members of staff in, and provide a really positive upfront experience for that organisation. And this can be delivered through any sorts of methods, or static screens, or via apps that can be downloaded in advance if preferred. For the smooth operation of a digital workplace, analytics is used to track the usage of resources such as meeting rooms, for instance, and why are large meeting rooms being utilised for small 2 or 3 participant meetings. Maybe that space can be used more effectively. We can provide analytics on some of this stuff through a location-enabled workspace that can give real feedback to an estates or a management team about how space is used and how it can be maximised. And expensive and important assets can also be tracked within a space. So if you've got something that needs to be mobile, needs to move around the building, but when you need it you can't find it, then you can track those assets, and that works particularly well in environments such as healthcare, where you've often got to find an important asset and you don't want it to go missing or go walking away from a particular environment or zone. So these tools are implemented and should only be implemented to improve workspace efficiencies. Combined with the right processes, increased employee satisfaction will have a positive effect on the work environment and positive outcomes for the business. So the next graphic we're going to show is how some of this is obviously applied within a workspace. So, for instance, you might have sensors at the front of your building that are saying when somebody has arrived, whether they've they might have an employee app, and more on that in a minute in the next section. They might have an app enabled or something on their phone enabled that knows that somebody has arrived. Not in a creepy way, we have to be very careful about how we track people and use that data and make sure that people are fully aware of how that's being done. But if it's providing real benefit to them, then often there's not too much pushback if they get the option to opt in and opt out where they require. So like I say, a digital reception with sensors, with static screens, and with the ability for individuals to make a choice on whether they deal with a person on reception or as I say, maybe use a digital screen. So if you think of I guess the McDonald's experience these days, is you have a choice. You can go to the screen and make a whole bunch of selections yourself, or you can talk to somebody in person, and that's the choice that we want to be offering. So that's with a location-enabled workspace that can be achieved. The building has sensors for determining the location of devices and assets, so the user can navigate around large complex buildings, turn-by-turn instructions, and presence analytics can deliver data to the estates department on how best to utilize that space. Again, this data can be completely anonymized, but so you're not tracking individuals, but it's really useful information to provide to an estates department on how occupied a space is and how people move around that space, and actually very importantly how they move between spaces, so that you can build up a picture over time of how real estate is used, and then make real choices on how you might change the flow of user traffic, how you might change the configuration of a hot desk workspace, and the like. And if you combine that with resource analytics, which is looking at how meeting rooms are used, how the resources within those rooms are used, again, you can make real efficiency gains in turning a large meeting room into 3 small meeting rooms, for instance, thereby driving efficiency of usage within that space. And the same sensors that are used for a lot of these features that we've discussed can be used for asset tracking. So tags, asset management systems combined with tags that are put onto high value pieces of equipment mean that you can set rules of if a piece of equipment leaves a particular zone, you might get a notification, or if you actually need to find an asset in a hurry, great, it's on the 3rd floor, and we need to go and find that. And there are many other benefits to be gained from these sensors. So when we jump into the next section about user experience apps, they are also using a lot of this same technology in order to determine location, to report on statistics, and to provide that frontline user experience through the delivery of an app that's using this infrastructure to its advantage. Just stop there because that's the end of that little section on location, and just check in with Chris again and make sure. Is there anything that you wanted to raise, Chris?
No, good to go.
Good. Okay. Hopefully our users are all connected now and can hear what we're talking about. Okay, so I'll move on to experience apps, and this is by far the sort of most recent addition to our own digital workplace portfolio. But it's probably true to say that this is a new addition for everyone, a new thought for everyone. So we'll look at some of the maturity levels in a bit along these separate conversations. But mobility, as I said, is something we've grown up with, and we've all got used to working in that way. And yes, there are always improvements to be made, and there are new considerations in terms of security and threat and workflow, but it's well bedded in. The location awareness that we've just talked about, well, asset tracking systems have been around for a while. Proximity sensors have been around for a while. Retail have been developing analytics on presence for years in order to gain intelligence on what they do within the retail space. But I think experience apps are the newest frontier, if you like, for digital workplace to really sort of deliver experience to those end users, to those end user stakeholders, and make the absolute most of some of the stuff that has gone before. So what do we expect an experience app to deliver? Well, that very much depends on the sector you're in and the use cases that you might have. But we can deploy apps that give a live map representation, for instance, in the hand of the individual, where they're getting a Google-like indoor navigation solution. But if they're needing to navigate a large complex space, if they're a new starter, if it's a large NHS campus or higher education facility, then these maps can be very useful and get people over some of the initial problems with just finding your way around a building or space. And I think for the sort of new generation of users, Generation Y, if you like, that's sort of what they expect. They don't expect to have to be looking at sort of static screens and static displays and things like that. Those maps and the information in the hand can also have very, very useful place marks and points of interest that are located on there. So you can search up for the nearest first aid point, or you can search up for the nearest toilets, or whatever you might need to find. So yeah, that's put into the hands of the user. Operational efficiencies can be driven from allowing people to search, manage and book their own workspaces, study spaces, meeting rooms, all tied in with calendar functions of an organization. But again, having the information of who's booking, what they're booking, how they're using the spaces will eventually give you the analytics that you need to understand how to use that space more efficiently. Targeted benefits, and those benefits obviously can be, if you're looking at the more commercial side and it's say a large higher education campus, you could push a benefit of using, visiting the coffee shop for your breakfast, and there's some sort of promotion deal on there. But benefits can also be, targeted at staff and employees, and all sorts of notifications about, healthy eating and social clubs and things like that can be targeted through the solutions and through the apps themselves. From the business's point of view, they can actually help deliver some of the things that are a requirement of business to deliver. So if we look at safeguarding, for instance, the applications themselves, and this has been deployed to some great success in higher education facilities and in local councils, is a communications tool at the end of the day, but mass communications for events, for emergencies, for situations, a two-way communication through an app if somebody's feeling like they're in a vulnerable situation. All of these things can be delivered through an app interface, which when tied into location awareness can have obviously a massive benefit to the individual feeling safe, and to the business who knows that they've done as much as they can from a safeguarding perspective. So if we delve a little bit deeper into those applications, what we're seeing is there's different types of applications out there that can deliver very different experiences. So categorized effectively as standalone for single function, and some organizations are already running these apps, so that might be as simple as a room booking app, and it's an easy way to search and find a room that's available, book the app with the tap of a button for a preset time of half an hour or an hour, and that's all tied in with the calendar system in Exchange or wherever that's held, immediately updated, notifications and the like. What we're seeing more recently is, even if you've got that single app, you can integrate that with the sensors we've talked about in the previous section for location aware buildings, and then provide people with directions to that room, or a map of where to find that room within the building. And again, that's a really, really useful feature on large campuses or a building that's unfamiliar to an individual. Similarly, another example of a sort of a standalone single function app is the safeguarding app, and the safeguarding function we talked about earlier. It's a single app. It has multiple use cases within the app, like I say, two-way communications, tracking of people that feel they're in a vulnerable situation, and mass communication for events and situations. But again, that's a solution that's initially delivered as a GPS-enabled location app, which works very well outdoors, but has some failings when you walk inside a large building, and it's very difficult to then pinpoint the individual within that building. If you combine that with the location services that are built into the building fabric, then you can give a 2 to 3 meter indoor accuracy, and if somebody raises an alert or raises an emergency through that app, then your response team can find them very quickly. And obviously that's a huge beneficial outcome if you're dealing with situations within minutes rather than tens of minutes, because you don't have to search for somebody. So that's sort of some examples there of standalone off-the-shelf apps that are available and ready today. We have worked with bespoke app developers that can deliver apps and web dashboards for pretty much anything you want. And obviously, you describe your requirement to these bespoke app developers. They understand how to integrate with the location features within a building, and then they can deliver you a solution. And we've seen some great successes there in the asset tracking world, for instance, within the NHS, where we can deliver asset tracking web dashboards based on the information received through the building sensors. And finally, and probably the example more akin with the example that's shown on the screen, there are full experience apps. There are apps out there that take a little bit of integration with the systems that exist in your workplace, but they are aimed to deliver all of the user experience from a single app interface. So they will provide you with the room booking solution, they will provide you with the live map and the directions, they'll provide you with general information about your site and notifications about employee benefits or offers. And they come with a certain amount of inherent solutions built into them, and then they will also have key integrations with other vendors that might be doing hot desk booking, or might be doing the digital concierge solution that we were talking about on the front desk. So that's sort of the app world that we're working with at the moment, and obviously that's something that on a future call and a future webinar we can go into more detail on and give some demonstrations of. But that's the user experience apps section. So what are Qualcomm doing based on sort of all of this information we've gleaned from our customers? And we only gain this information from working with the likes of yourselves on your projects and understanding how your businesses work. We've got some of our traditional portfolio in here. Those that have worked with us for a number of years will recognize some of what we do, certainly in the mobility space. That enables secure access anywhere productivity with these assurances that operations need. Our location business builds upon our intelligent infrastructure portfolio. We build that foundation of intelligent infrastructure, and then we overlay with sensors, with analytics, with the like that start to deliver real benefit back from those buildings. And our growing portfolio of user experience applications deliver the satisfaction and productivity outcomes at the front line. And what the fourth box is showing us here is that Qualcomm has developed a set of services that streamline the delivery and management of these points and integrated products. Device and technology as a service offers an end-to-end management of procurement, enablement, rollout, management and remediation of technology. Whilst our location infrastructure as a service manages the complexity of a changing working environment that is built with this sensor technology. Our assurance services will constantly monitor the type of experience that your users are getting, and obviously that assists with troubleshooting and can provide some reporting back to the powers that be on the success of these rollouts in terms of user experience. So they're the services that, again, on future sessions, and if you want to ask us at a later date, we can go into more detail on. But that's what we've been focusing from what we've learned from our customers. These are the services that we've been focusing on. So what does that leave us asking? I guess that leaves us asking, where are we all as individual organizations on the transformation to a digital workplace? I think this picture and these steps are not unfamiliar to anyone going through a digital transformation journey at the moment. So, we start at the assessing phase. We then start implementing some of these technologies and processes around these digital technologies to transform our businesses. As adoption increases, we're accelerating the use of those technologies and seeing real business benefit from that. And then obviously as they become BAU in their own right, we obviously need to constantly monitor and optimize those transformed digital technologies that we've implemented. And the digital transformation journey as a whole, you could try and assess that, but what we try to do is obviously break it down into smaller chunks so that we can see on which element of the transformation programs are we further ahead on some, and maybe not as far ahead as others. So what we've done from what we've learned from our customers and where we think our customers are up to, we've just put this together as a small number of charts on the 3 subject areas that we've discussed today. So in mobility, and I think I've said it more than once, it's a fairly mature space for digital transformation and for digital workplace transformation. And as we all know, over the last few weeks, some of that's really been tested for some people. Some of us have got lucky. Qualcomm are one of those, because we implemented our Office SharePoint solution, Microsoft SharePoint solution, the day before we decided to send our workers to work from home, which was really good, because we no longer had to rely on the VPNs to get access to our data. So we were at that point on that particular part of our digital transformation, we were at the right point at the right time. Others, as we know from our customers, have had to sort of fight a little bit harder to get the scale they needed in place to make this work. But in our eyes, most people have been out there in the market long enough, understand the products that they want to deploy, have transformed their business from a mobile working perspective, and have a fairly high level of adoption of that technology, and are now looking at, as I say, the new tools, the new security tools, maybe the new methods of access, zero password, single sign-on. That's the optimizing phase that we're sort of all going through at the moment to make mobile working much more efficient than it has been in the past. So I think I'm more than happy for people to challenge me on these numbers, because these are only really things that we've observed from our own customer base. For location, it's obviously the numbers are a lot lower, and doesn't mean it hasn't been around for a while. Like I said, I think things like asset tracking, certainly within healthcare, using RFID for proximity sensors, and as I say, the retail market that's used many different types of sensors over the years through camera recognition, through some of the Wi-Fi technologies that we're actually referring to here, to simple door counters, have actually had some of the analytics delivered to them already in terms of that. But generally across our customer base, we sort of see the numbers like this. People are definitely sitting up and taking notice and assessing these technologies and seeing what role they have to play in their digital transformation journey. Some, as I say, certain sectors, healthcare, retail, have made some investments in the past. The adoption hasn't been huge. I think you need to we need to be aware of that. It's not been a massive amount of adoption, certainly in this sort of enterprise space. And obviously the optimizing part it really only comes as you adopt more and you can gather more data. Can you then truly look at optimizing those solutions and services? But it's been around, and people have had a little play with it. And finally, we've got the experience apps. Now, this really is the new world. I think that yes, everyone's used to apps. Everyone's used to a Sainsbury's shopping app, a Tesco's shopping app, different apps to deliver different experiences. But what we're talking about here really is the digital workplace and digital transformation. And in that sense, there hasn't been a massive amount of sort of workplace app adoption that people can rely on and feel that they're getting real true benefits out of. And so these numbers are probably reflective of where we are at the moment. Yes, we have a few customers that are doing some really interesting stuff, and we're helping them on that journey. But obviously, it's a growing market, or a market with potential growth that we see, that we'd like to get involved in and help our customers with going forward. And that sort of brings me to the end of our Qualcomm's perspective on the digital workplace, yeah, look forward to any questions you have.
That's great. Thanks a lot, Stu. We do have a couple of questions. First one, how do you get ROI from location-based services?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good question. I mean, I probably can't point you to a specific study. A couple of examples. We worked quite closely with Aruba, as many of you probably know. And Aruba have recently invested in helping the Tottenham football stadium sort of completely sort of digitize their experience for customers that visit that. So this is a sort of an anecdotal one, really, in terms of sales of food and beverages at that venue have gone up massively in the recent since the new stadium opened, with all of these digital services, because everything is app driven. You can see where the smallest queue is at the bars, so you can go to the right bar to get your drink quicker. You can pre-order from the app and collect from a collection point. Yeah, the numbers are quite stark. In fact, Chris, I think you have the numbers of the benefit that they've seen from that somewhere.
Yeah, I think when, because we were up there actually, we visited them to see all of this new tech that they'd installed, and they mentioned that the old White Hart Lane ground used to sell about I think it was something like 200,000 pints over the course of a season, which is a considerable amount of beer anyway. But they said with the new ground and the new technology that they were giving to their to the people that were coming to the ground, they were selling around 120,000 pints per game, or was it per weekend? Either or, it's a considerable increase. Whether that's down to the actual the ground itself, the fans, the increase in the number of food and beverage outlets, they attribute a lot of this growth to the fact that the people that are after the beer and the food can get it a lot easier now. They get it a lot more quickly. So yeah, good story.
Yeah, I think there are some other examples as well. I think I talked about meeting space efficiency. So we've had some feedback from one of the users of the meeting room booking app that truly did see that these large meeting rooms were getting used for very small meetings, and therefore were able to reorganize their meeting rooms to be more efficient. Take that large 12-person meeting room and box it into 3 smaller rooms that are all bookable in their own right, and therefore improve efficiency for meetings. And one of the prime examples, and it is one that's been around a while, like I say, in the location services space, is for asset tracking of devices within the NHS. A lot of devices go walking out the door in the NHS, never to be seen again. No intelligence on how they got where they got to, where that wheelchair got put on that that got put on that ambulance has ended up in another hospital, but there's just no way of knowing this stuff, or it's just sitting in a cupboard on another ward somewhere. If you can track these things, you can get alerts when they leave particular wards or particular zones, then that's actually going to deliver a return quite quickly.
Yeah. Brilliant. And we've got one other question. How do you encourage user experience app adoption?
Yeah, that's a good question. We've been working with a number of organisations, both in the enterprise and predominantly then in higher education, and they have the same question. I guess they approach it in slightly different ways. Really, with app adoption, as with anything, you've really got to offer a benefit to the user and something that's quite obvious. So maybe on the integrated applications, you combine it with another single-use app that is a very popular app. And actually, one of our HE customers said that when we deploy the app for students, can we integrate it with the app that tells you when the washing machines are free? because there is an app that exists for that, and that's one of the most popular used apps on the campus, because nobody wants to take that walk down to the washing machine, the washing area, and find all the machines are busy. And so there is actually an app that tells you when the machines are free. So that was one way. One other way you can do, there's a wireless charging pad that can integrate with the location services solution and with the applications. So obviously a lot of devices are chargeable via wireless these days. If you put these devices on desks in your library spaces or your meeting rooms or your study spaces, they can be gated so that you actually can't receive a charge from those charging pads unless you have the app on your phone or device. And obviously, you're immediately giving the consumer or the user or your member of staff something in return for them downloading the app. You can have some juice on your phone. You don't need to go and search out for your 3-pin plug and your cable and a socket. So yeah, that's definitely something that's been done as well.
Brilliant. Well, that's it for the questions. I think we can certainly wrap up there. Ooh,
okay. Well, thank you everyone for your time. And like Chris said, this is going to be recorded, and we'll send a link out soon.
Wonderful. Stay safe, stay home, and we'll speak to you all soon. Thank you.
Thank you.